Okay, okay. You'll get it back a little later as well. You say. Okay. All right. All right. Well, let's look at this new idea here that we're getting. This is the last of this first section. Apparently, he's going to go to chapter 2. After that, I don't know. I'm looking forward to finding the grow out there. So he said, let's just read the top and try to get an idea of what's going on then. He says also, he calls it a maftacha. He's also the maftacha, a key, the kolel shis, that I guess has 6 different notches in it, something like that. And it covers up her opening, her door. V'achid the sata, then it makes up something, comes to that she makes a yichud down below, l'chai on this side and on that side. Not sure what that meant exactly, but maybe he means, as he's going to explain, a connection with both Ima and the Nukva. Vai laman de galit pischaho, woe to the man who reveals her, let's call it a door, her opening. Now let's look at the blurb and we'll see if we can. So this is a concept of the 6. We're going to see what he means by that. Let me get down here a little bit lower. Okay, and he says as follows. He says a little blurb. So this concept of the Bia Rishon is important. Then we're going to talk now about that yichud, the yichud bin Tzachar v'nuk, the Bia Rishon, again from the original yichud. And so he said, what do we talk about? He says, Shachamochem nimshachem lezer anpin al yedech yislavshus nai de'iva b'so zer anpin. We know that. Ba'az mizdavgim zer v'nuk, so then we see that their yichud takes place as a result of the episode Bia Rishona, which is the secret of this original idea, which is called Bia Rishona. V'yivar the oz, and when explained like that, the end, that then, Nimsa shazer anpin soisim yisodus ima v'nukva. He closes up, wants to be he makes a close. He closes on both ends. Ki yisod ima mislavesha b'zer anpin, because her yisod is clothed inside a zer anpin. B'sod mochim, and it's the secret of mochin. In other words, I don't know what that meant exactly, but she pours mochin into zer anpin. I guess that's what that means. V'yisod the nukva stuma also is closed up. Yisod is there anpin to the Yisod is there anpin. So the Yisodos, the Yisod of Ima and the is closed as a result of this because she's inside of Zer Anpin. So I guess that means it's closed. And then the Yisod of the Nukva, because the Yisod of Zer Anpin comes and seals her up. Yidod Zer Anpin. So this is Anpin. So the Yichud, and that's the Yichud Zohar. No. A Messiah, and he concludes like this, and he says, because of sinning, Gormin Lasalek as Yisod Ima, it causes the Yisod to Ima to pull out. Menesinas and Mochin to Zer Anpin, as a result of that, there's no more Mochin flowing into Zer Anpin. As Yisod Nukva Meyichud to Zer Anpin, and it causes the drying up, or let's say the separation of the yichud there between the yisod of zer anpin and the nuk, negdam bechinas gilui arayos. So then, corresponding to this, or nigram, I guess I could have read that wrong. Nigram bechinas gilui arayos. So then you see that you have this causes the concept of an open. I don't know. Anyway, that's of revealing nakedness. The ima v'nukvad, both of the female aspects. So he says al yedei kach nim shachim hadinim lemata, and so instead of being the shefa of bracha pouring in, you have the opposite coming in. So let's read a little bit more. Now the idea, the whole idea of I think of them of covering it up, covering them. What's the right word? Is not the way that I would have said it, but it seems to be important. So he says that's what it is. It's a seal up, but then it unseals it. When it unseals it, it's vulnerable. V'az la'achar sheniftach Pesach Ima. B'biyah Rishona. So now we've opened up the doorway of Ima into the Biyah Rishona, as we mentioned up above. So in other words, that's the shefa coming from Abba into Ima. Also, maftacha the kol el shus. There comes along now a key that has six notches. Bazer anpen a nikra mafteach shekolu sheish kitzvos, because he has the 6 kitzvos of chesed through Yisod. Ki bebechila yanika ein lo rak sheish kitzvos. So if we're at a certain place and we're in a place of katnus, so there's no yanika going on there. Ki bechinas yanika elohim rak sheish kitzvos. So that's all that you get is the 6 kitzvos. Makasi Pischa, and it closes up her opening. Huba b'chid mafteach. This is the idea of a key. Shemakasi, so it fits into a slot, so to speak, something like that. B'soisim as Pesach Ima, and it closes up the doorway to Ima. So the doorway is closed. V'hu kedugmas menol. So this is like a lock on a door. Shesoisim v'sogir as a Pesach, which has the ability to close up the door. Now, normally, I'm thinking the opposite. I'm thinking my normal way to thinking would be that it doesn't close it up, it opens it up. But this is not what he's saying. He says that it closes it up. And of course, you could see that it closes up because it's inside the opening. The Inyan is like this. And now she goes back and she starts pouring it to Zer Anpin as Bechidas Hamochim. So he puts two things together. He pours into her the bechina of mochim and also v'kli shekibel b'biyah rishona, that she gets all of this at the first yichud. So he said v'chainu al yedech yislavshus netzach hod yisod the iba b'rosh zer anpin, and now she comes into the rosh zer anpin, that is her nai b'sod selam amochim, and this is the secret, of course, of the whole Salam HaMochim. Now, why he said the Salam HaMochim? Because the Salam refers to also the Haggad and the Chabad of Ima. So I guess they're working as Makifim, I guess, he said, because he says, who the Ima Barosh Zer Anpin besod Salam HaMochim. So this is the Salam HaMochim of all of the different kinds of lights there. The Nimsa Pesach Shal Yisod Ima, so it comes out like this, that the opening of the Yisod of Ima, Nislavish v'nistam bedas shibarosh zer anpin. Exactly where is this located, where this is happening, is that this goes in, and it makes a seal. Let's see what he says, Nislavish, it closes up the das of er anpin. Let's read again. He says, shall Yisod, he says, of a nimsa shachapasak shall Yisod Ima. So the opening that would be in the Yisod of Ima, Nislavish, it also now is clothed inside of something else, and as a result of that, it's sealed there. V'nistam b'das shibarosh zer anpin, and this is another way of saying that the Yisod of Ima, the Ataras Yisod of Ima, extends down into the, or not the Ataras, but the Yisod of Ima is in his das. V'hakli shekibla rabbe'ima rabbe'nita rabbe'das zer anpin. So that kli, so this may be significant, that Ima gets the kli as a result of the penetration of, I guess, the Yisod of Abba into Ima, or let's see what she means. He says, "V'hakli shekiblo Ima." Now she receives the kli for the biyah rishona that we're talking about in the last little section. Nitin b'das the zer anpin is placed into the das of zer anpin, b'sod chasadim the das, which is the secret of the chasadim das. Okay, so that's for v'achid the sata, and it makes a yichud down below. What does that mean? So it's not just the mochid, but it's also the kli. Sounds like it's coming at the same time. So he says the mochid of the hakli berosh zer anpin, az nisachid zer anpin lamata im hanukva. Then a yichud takes place down below, as a result of the penetration of and closing up of zer anpin in the top, the Yisod of Ima in the top of zer anpin going to his das. Therefore, it causes a yichud to take place between zer anpin and the nukva down below. Besod the zivug. For oros hamochin nimshachem v'neknasa b'yisod the nukva, and the light also of lights, these oros They enter into the Yesod of Nukva. They go all the way in. V'chachasadim de bechinas hakli. So he says the chasadim which that come from the bechinas of the kli, mischavrim im hagavuros. It joins together with the gavuros should be Yesod of Nukva, which are already in the Yesod of Nukva, Yesod hazivuk. So now the words were, he said v'chachasadim. So focusing on the chasadim. Lahai. Now what does that mean? The nimsa shazer anpin misache deim ima milamala vim hanukva milamata. So it has those two qualities. It performs a double task. Ki soisim closes up again. Umachase and covers over. As Pesach ima lamala, the opening of ima up above. Pesach hanukva labata, and also it's sealing up those two places. And I guess the idea is the Yesod of Ima and the Yesod of the Nukva represent their erva, so to speak, and as long as it's sealed up, then everything is copacetic. So Rosh there anpin lamala soger, so it closes up as Yesod the Ima, hamislavish bo, which is clothed inside of it. Then he says the Yesod is there anpin lamata soger as Yesod a nukva. So you said it has double connection with Yesodos. A Messiah vailaman the galit pischa. So he said, woe to the man that reveals her openings, her doorways. So woe to the person who causes as a result of his sins. The Gala says pischa Yesod shel ima v'nukva. Because why? Because the chatoim cause the ima to move out, and which causes the flow to stop. Shall ima v'nukva v'ha'inyan hu. So let's explain it. She'im yisodas the ima v'nukva stumim al yedei chazer anpin. If he's able to close up their openings, Gamor. Azai eina dinim gamorim. Then the dinim can't be completed. Now, what does that mean? So he says another. Why does he say completed? He said they're not completed. Avach kasher Yisrael chotim. But when the Jews sin, God forbid, and what kind of sins are he talking about? He's talking about the sins of male and female that are not flowing anymore. Gormim she'ima masalekes as netzachod yisod shalosh. She removes her nai. Hamitzlavshim barosh zer anpin, which are clothed in the head of zer anpin. The nimsa she yisod ima magula. So it comes out that now her yisod is wide open. It's revealed. As a result of this, what comes out of it, that is that also zer anpin mistalik lamala meranukva also leaves her too, because there's nothing in her and in him anymore. I guess it causes that dries up the connection. No longer as a yichud with the nukva. Vaz gam yisod the nukva. So then also you see that the yisod of the nukva megula is also megula. So you have this problem that she's now has nothing to protect her. I guess he's saying like that, or something to seal up her erva. Besod Gilui Arias, which is now Gilui Arias. Vazai Gormin Shachadinim Shal Ima Benukva. So now we see this, what's happening. The sin itself, Azai Gormin Shachadinim Shal Ima Benukva Yotzim Bacha Yesodas, leaves the Yesodos, Vachadinim Nimshachim Ala Tachtain the Mata, and it has an opening for the dinim. And notice that we're talking here about living together, man and woman in some way, is that we see that this avera, which has to do with sex, is really a big problem. So meidach midah toiva meruva. On the other way, you have a tremendous amount of goodness coming in. Shechagoran b'maasa begovatovim. So when a person does Torah mitzvahs, it causes a yichud elyon, the yichud to take place. That's what causes ima to pour into zeranpit, to go into zeranpit. Gadol kavoda, may his kavod be magnified. V'schara gadol, or at least that person who does this, a tremendous reward. So reasoning backwards is that he's saying that normally the Yesodas are vulnerable, and that the function of Zer Anpin is to make them not vulnerable, to protect them. Closes them up. So happy is a person who's able to set this up so that the flow of light continue to go. So now we're going to try to look at some of these places here. I just didn't make any notes on the first one. I'm just concerned that it's not too much repetition of the same idea. I'll read the first one. I maybe have to look at it a little more closely. He says like this: Rebe Eitz Chaim. So what happens over here in the Mekoros Tziyunim, mostly he's bringing the site reference from where these ideas are coming from. So he says, Vihide Elul Halamed Beis Desivo. So we talked about that in the last year, the 32 pathways of Heim Zecharim Mechochma. So they're male, they come from Abba. V'noisnim be'ima toch mansepach shehem nun sha'arim. Let's go over this again. We just went through a whole thing. We're adding up 50. That was in the last year, or the last section. Here he says v'noisnim be'ima toch mansepach. Now he says that it goes into the 5 additional letters that we have here. Shehem nun sha'arim, which develop into, and mansepach, let's say, is sweetened in it. Let's say that's what it is. I'm not sure. So mansepach shehem nun sha'arim shaba, which are her 50 gates. He called achas mina osias mansepach kolo mayud hari nun. Now this is another way of adding up 50 that we didn't see in the last section. V'chein nikra sha'arim. So therefore they're called gates. Yan heim pesachim pesuchim, because they're doors that are open. And I'm not sure what he means. Let's say where is it? Yan heim pesachim pesuchim v'nikavim, they have all openings in them of ima. Hanikra nekeva, who's called female in this case. Ki hanikeva she'aracha pesuchim, because in the case of this female, the female quality of ima, she's called that she has her gates are open, the kabos v'socha nesivas chochma. Now that's opening at the top. That's what it sounds like to me, right? She's reading some are opening from the inside. Not gone. V'chein bir kan b'zohar chai says over l'shono. V'chatzos alaylo, when we come to midnight. Now maybe I didn't hear this before. Az miznavgim abba v'ima b'chadash b'sod b'yerishayda l'sosa kli v'hisnehiras ima. So that comes back and closes up a little bit, or shines on what we said a little before. But the particular part is, he says the yichud between Abba and Ima is renewed at midnight. Well, it's the beginning of the next day. So now we have something new coming on. La asosa kli v'hisnehiras ima, and as a result of making her into a vessel that can hold the light of Abba. Now, so now she starts to shine. So he says, and then that's that phrase before her gates open. But it requires the concept, what he said previously, of the mansepach to come in and to anasim chamisha shar makes them 50 gates. Shalah rochavim bepesuchim pesa petuach, and it makes them wide open. So they're broad and open. That we saw over there. As Shartanta, that's in Shartanta apparently. That's Ad Khan. So that's that idea, the opening of the gates. So he says Ad Khan. So what we're talking about here at midnight, who lefi darko sham. But when we're talking about what we're talking about, Be'etz Chaim, he says, the Ira B'Bia Rishina, that we're really talking over here about the first Bia, the Abba Ve'ima B'Brias Olam, as at the creation of the world. Now, there needs more explanation. What I would like to hear more about what this phrase means, B'Brias Olam. So, in other words, Olam is involved in hiddenness, is creating the ability to be able to minimize the light. That's just what I'm thinking he means about it, something about the Brias Olam, but normally we say that the Brias Olam refers to Oz. So that was number Kaf Aleph. So now let's look at we have just a very little bit of time. Let's just read a little bit. I guess we're done right there. Finish right there. Okay, so that's a shir. We're starting up this new idea of how it is the actions of Zeir Anpin, or the importance of Zeir Anpin in the making of the connections for the flow of the light down to us. This is Baruch Fleischman.